So let's jump right in. Penny knows me now. Hope knows me now. I'm not a lazy agent. I work hard. I learned from really good people since the beginning. I was just for Alicia. I was with Marnie Bennett first, got the opportunity to train with a lot of really good agents there. And now being with Steve, Tarek, Sarah, Penny, all the team here, it's been really, really amazing. For me, it was like an up level of what I already had, where I already had a good foundation. So I'm very happy to continue to grow my business. Now, there are certain things that I realized on my second year that were making me lose opportunities. So a lot of it is just like skills. So I put it down into skills. This is stuff that I've learned, since I started, but also I remember our first Evolve, Nancy Forlini, she said something along the lines of, are you training to be a pro athlete or are you just an amateur? So amateurs, they just, show up, hope for the best. Athletes are constantly training and honing their skills. So as agent, for me, it was very important to understand that anything that's a skill can be learned. So I don't have to be great at it in the beginning, but it's up to me to become great at it. So one of them, so just to start with the title here. So why you're losing deals without realizing it, three skills that separate agents who close consistently from those who wonder what went wrong. I found out early that there's a lot of people, and I think anywhere, honestly, in previous careers and jobs, there's a lot of complainers out there. So you can choose to complain or you can choose to just do better. Look at yourself, build self-awareness, and be better. And these are three skills that I think are important. They're very foundational. It's communication, so learning how to communicate correctly. So how agents unknowingly lose deals by communicating the wrong way. So I'll touch on a little bit of on DISC. I did a training in January. It was more in depth, but this is just going to be a little bit more practical, more like obviously shorter. Um, but that's a number one for me. It's learning. It's like when you're playing poker, you gotta know the player. So, because you gotta craft your conversation in a way that they're going to receive it. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels, wasting your time. Number two, the second skill is follow up. So, like one of my great mentors, she said that your fortune is in the follow up. So, building a system that doesn't forget, it's key, right? Because if you just pretend that you're going to keep everything in your mind, you're going to forget. So rely on your systems, your CRMs, and don't let the deals die between the silence between those touch points. And the third one is qualifying serious clients. So very early, I realized that there's people that just don't respect your time. So how to spot the time wasters to protect your pipeline. So I believe this is a very crucial skill in our business. And if at any point you want to ask any questions or clarifications, it's just, it's an intimate group. Let me know. Let's see how to. Okay, here we go. Now, the numbers behind the lost deal. So I always really like stats. So I like looking at real estate stats. When I was preparing this presentation, I asked AI to give me the source of the stats. So I could know that it is legit and it's not just made up. So so these are the silent patterns training commissions for merit agents at every level, including great agents. Danny Griffin talks about it all the time. He coaches top producers, and we all have this weaknesses, right? So communication breakdown is the number one reason clients ghost you. So 60% of clients who switch agents cited poor communication. It was not competence, it was not price, not market conditions. So the National Association of Realtors in the US, they came up with the stat. And even in our listing presentation on the sheet that says, why do people don't go back to the same agent? It says 72% of homeowners don't go back to the same agent. And then it says one of the number one reasons is communication. So you either, 42% give up too soon, 42% of agents. So agents who stop after just one follow-up attempt. I find that there's a lot of agents, and I was guilty of this in the beginning. It's like, well, if they're not ready to meet right now, forget about it. I'll jump into the next person. But then I went back to my inside sales roots, and it's like, no, you know what? I have to like start building a relationship with these people. Like they don't know me, so they're just gonna buy a house, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, um, just because. Like those are very, it's very little when I first meet a person that's gonna buy the house the same day I meet them. I think that's happened like once. 80% of real estate agents need five touch points. So, sorry, 80% of real estate sales, sorry, need five touch points. This was a sales training group that came up with the stat. I know everybody has a different number. You have to do 12 touches. You have to do 33 touches. I think if you have meaningful conversations with these people, you can reduce it down from like 33. I think those 33, when coaches and trainers reference those 33 touch points, it's direct and indirect. When I say direct is like having an actual conversation with the person, and then indirectly it's like, okay, they're getting my newsletter, they're getting my market update. So I think if obviously the more touches, the better. But if you have meaningful touches with them, that'll definitely shorten that timeline because then you will also be able to qualify them better and figure out how to best utilize your resources, like your time for this specific person. 50% are wrong fit leads. So 50% of the agents chase the leads that agents chase are poor fit from the start. This was a stat from Tom Ferry. I also read a book. I just remember this. It's a book called The 5% Agent or 5% Fee. Have you read that book? Let's just look it up quickly. It's from this guy, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. He did a partnership with a real estate trainer. Oh, here. So the full fee, excuse me. The full fee agent, Chris Voss and Steve Shaw. That's a really great book because it'll basically, what I remember is like you're either the favorite or you're just like they're just using you to compare you to another agent. So it was a very helpful book because no matter what, if somebody is already committed, and committed, I mean, not necessarily writing, but they feel emotionally or some sort of like morally committed to another agent, there's no way this person's going to work with you. So don't waste your time on those people. You're either the favorite, I can't remember. I wish I remember what he calls it, but it's like you're either the favorite or you're whatever the other person. So, working 50% of those people, like, working with the wrong people will definitely make you lose deals because then you're not using your time for the people for the ones that will make you their favorite. All right, so what do you think about those stats?
I think it's great. The only thing I might add in there is often, like you're saying, the disc person, right? I
Mm-hmm.
find often, like yesterday, I was in a group setting. My daughter was here, and I took a phone call from a client, and I knew what I wanted to say to the client long before the client asked. And I had to slow myself down and not get ahead of him and just let him voice his questions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's about like what's in it for the client. So you're talking about the touches. What's in it for the client? I know why I want to contact them 12 times because I want to get a deal out of it, right? But
Yeah.
what value do they see in me, like offering them a lender, for instance? I want to give them more information and say, I'm offering you a lender because she got a great rate yesterday. This is the rate she got. We're foreseeing that the rates may go up next quarter. What are your thoughts on an introduction to this lender?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that, Penny. I'll touch on that because it's not just like you said, it's not just making a touch. It's like really adding value. Because if you're just like, hey, are you ready? Hey, are you ready? Hey, well, guess what? You're just gonna be the annoying agent who has nothing to break. So I like that you bring that up. All right. So communication and personality types. Not every client thinks, decides, or communicates the same way. We're all different. Agents who treat every client identically will win some and lose many, not because of their work, but because of communication mismatch. Recognizing these four types in conversations is enough to close more deals. So just a brief touch on DISC. I find that we meet all of these people every week. Like if you're constantly, having conversations, you're gonna talk to at least one of these or the combinations of these. And the goal is awareness. Okay, so the goal is to have that knowledge in your head, and when you recognize it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm talking to an I, I'm talking to a D. So then you can adapt. So the driver or dominant is decisive. They usually don't have time and they hate fluff. They lead with numbers and outcomes, skip the over explaining, give them the bottom line first. So these people, I find that we talked about this in January when we train on disc. They're very comfortable with conflict or confrontation, but that doesn't mean they don't see it as a negative. So you could have a confrontation, or I would say a tough conversation with them and have a really positive outcome after that conversation. So these are people that just want the facts, bullet points. They don't want an essay. You're wasting their time. So, you know, these are my favorite people to deal with because they're very easy. They want you to know what they're thinking. So there's no guessing with the personalities. Uh, the eyes, so the talkers, influencers, so their relationship first. They're very enthusiastic, bubbly, and they need to like you. So they have to feel very comfortable with you. So focus on building rapport, having like commonalities with them, and sharing stories. Don't rush into the transaction before creating a real connection. So I know I know Penny is a more of an I. I'm also an I, but I don't like to waste my time either. So I naturally feel like I want to connect with people, but I also have to like remind myself like these are not my friends, even though some clients end up being friends. But I gotta remember I need to stay on my real estate lane to gain their trust as well as a professional. But it's very natural for me to want to share stories and build rapport with them, which makes it really enjoyable too. The analyst, or conscientious, detail-driven, process-oriented. With them, think about the C's are going to be your engineers, accountants, uh, anybody who's like very process-oriented, step by step. So use data, comps, reports, stats. They're going to ask a lot of questions, but I find when you gain the trust of a C person, they trust you forever. Never push for a fast decision. They need to process fully and analyze risk first. You'll never push a C person into a decision, I find. If you do, it's just going to fall apart. So just provide the data, provide the stats, um, give them your best, professional opinion, and then they're gonna digest it. They're going to make their own decision. The steadiness, these were the hardest for me to deal with because they avoid conflict. They need a lot of reassurance. They don't like to feel pressured. So with them, you have to be very patient. You have to validate their feelings. Um, you can never give them ultimatums. You're gonna scare them away. And you gotta try and use a language that is inclusive. So we will find the right home. We're gonna make this work. Anything you need, we're gonna work at it together. So us, we, us. I wrote it here. Um, when I did my profile in January again, it came up that for work, I can bring up my S a lot higher than it is when on my natural state. So I'm natural at home with family friends. I'm an IC, and then at work, I'm an IS. So I thought that was very interesting because I learned to adapt to get along with the S's because there's a lot of S's and C's in Ottawa, and I was having a hard time with S's in the beginning. I have a question for Alicia. Alicia, have you studied this profile?
Yeah, so I did my disc profile like last year and I cannot remember what it is. Let me go see if I can, but I can tell by my personality.
Oh, you muted. Just look it up. Let us know. I'm curious now. So I just put a little scenario here. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but the 900K miscommunication. So an agent sends a detailed 3-page, imagine that, 3-page market analysis email to a D-type client who asked one simple question. They wanted to know, should I list now or wait? First of all, I would have not send an email, probably sit down with them. Should I list now or wait? The client never responds. The agent thinks he or she's being thorough. The client thinks the agent cannot answer a simple question. So again, recognize the client, adapt your response to them because yes, maybe they think you're not good at what you do. Like you're not answering my question. Why are you giving me this essay to answer my simple questions? So the right answer wasn't wrong. It was delivered the wrong way. That client needed one sentence and a clear recommendation. Instead, they got a research paper and you lost them. So can you think of a recent client? Which type were they? Did you communicate in their style or did you communicate in yours? Um, when you can, today, try to write down one client interaction that didn't go as expected, and think about, could a communication mismatch explain the outcome? What could have happened with that client? Um, could I have adapted my response better to them?
Andrea, one thing that I have learned and I still keep having to remind myself is that if I'm communicating like an email or that type of thing, I like to call and talk, of course, but when it comes to, giving them stuff in email, I tend to write an email in the way I talk, which is, more, conversational and that kind of thing. But I've learned do it for a D and like start with a outline, and then I can add a few, nice things in and put all the attachments for my Cs that, need all that data. But if I give them a quick outline of like, this is what you're going to see, a D gets their answer, and the others then have a roadmap of where they can go to find what they want, if they want any of it. But that
Mm,
I have to make myself organize material like a D would want and
yeah.
then present. Yeah.
And I find that very effective because, again, you have to be precise with a
Mhm.
D client. You have to be precise, no fluff, right? And
And
something that,
even with other clients, like other personalities, precision's important because they can get, if there's not an outline saying you need this step and this step and this step, they get one done and then they think they're finished,
yeah,
but it's if it's all there nice and neat, then they can follow through on the others.
yeah. I like that you say this step, this step, this step. Something that I find works with everybody. I know we're talking about like personalizing our approach, but something that I find works with everybody, and just because we're human beings, we have a need for certainty and we want to know what to expect. So if you can tell a person, anybody, a step-by-step process, right away you're giving them comfort, you're giving them certainty. So if they don't know, or if they're too overwhelmed with this thing to do, that thing to do, like their minds cannot make a decision. So if you give people a step-by-step process, they feel more certain and they feel more like confident on moving forward with anything. So that's a little bonus. All right, so moving to module 2 here. Consistent follow-up systems. Most agents follow up twice and they move on. I've been guilty of this. Um, so it's always trying to get back on the proper way to follow up and staying consistent. So most deals will close after 5 to 12 touch points, and I mean meaningful touch points. The gap is where commission goes to die for everyone, including great agents. We stop right before the client was about to say yes. We think we're being annoying, and they think we have lost interest. I have had people like the ones who are serious. I have had them and who end up, doing a transaction. They thank me for being patient with them after following up for like months. So they say, you know what, nobody took the time to actually check in. Nobody took the time to just show up consistently. So I have had that feedback before, so which is nice, very gratifying. Mistake number one, it's stopping too early. Silence from a client, it's not a no, it's timing. Life happens. Or maybe it's a slow decision maker. I find with slow decision makers, yes, they need their time, but you also have to make them aware that you will go at their pace. So if they're not responsive, obviously you cannot just like waste your time with them. So I tell them, I'm gonna go at your pace, but we need to know we're going somewhere. Ask for more qualifying questions when you reconnect with them. So if they're taking time, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm sorry, life has been so busy. This happened and this happened and this happened." So maybe, buying or selling a house is not at the top of their priority list, obviously. So you have to do a better job of qualifying them, and that's, trying to find number one motivation in their timing. Mistake number two, no variety. So this is what Penny was talking about. So just checking in, it's not a reason to reach out. Add value every time you reach out. So send them a new listing. Hey, I saw this house. It has this and this and this. What do you think? I thought of you when I saw it. Send them a market stat. Hey, days on market are going down. I think it's the right time to get your house up now. Maybe a relevant news like, hey, fixed rates are going up. What do you think about having a conversation with this lender? So making that touch point meaningful, right? Again, going back to the 15 to 12 touch points, um, and people who say there's like 33 or however many, I find that if you make them meaningful, you can get there, you can both get to your goal faster. Mistake number 3, no systems. So relying on memory breaks the moment, it should be momentum. Your pipeline grows. So relying on memory breaks the moment your pipeline grows. That makes no sense to me. So just don't rely on your memory only. Make sure that you're constantly updating your CRM. So if it's in your CRM, it doesn't exist. So I put my tasks on follow-up boss, and I put a date so then it could actually notify me. Okay, I have to, when I look at my tasks for the day, I see, I have to talk to Rita, who I talked to her last month. She's still waiting for her divorce documents, but I'm gonna make sure I can make a meaningful touch point with her. So when these papers are ready, um, you know, we're gonna do something. So relying on not just like, oh yeah, I remember I have to talk to this guy. I forgot to put it in my pipeline. And maybe you remember like 3 months later, at that point it's too late. So always rely on your systems. And that's a quick one. Do you ladies have anything to add for follow-up? Anything that you would think it's been
Andrea, when are you going to be teaching a follow-up boss training so that
training?
yeah, because you were very helpful for me, like switching to follow-up boss and just showing all the different tabs and the things I can do. And I mean, I still have lots of questions in that. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, because you
Maybe
you
that's
use
more like
yours
a Metro
well.
City one. Yeah, that'll be more of a Metro City training. I'll talk to Sarah and
I
Steve.
did mention it to Sarah when she and I met last week, and I think she's got one in the works. So if you connect with her, because you have some really good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like nothing complicated because I I mean I just use it for what I needed and that's it. I'm not doing fancy stuff in there. But just like basic day-to-day stuff, I think it's very, very helpful. So I'll talk to her, Hope.
Okay.
All right, so number 3, so module 3, third skill, qualifying serious clients. So not everyone who calls is a buyer, and not everyone who wants you to have a look at their house is a seller. Um, I wrote this because I remember when I first started door knocking, old ladies, they would want me to come into their house to take a look. Like, oh, I just redid my living room and da da da. I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna sell. And then they wanted to talk forever. Like I remember the very first house, I was there for like 45 minutes. And I didn't want to be rude, but I'm like, this lady's not doing anything. So what am I doing here? So we had hope you'll remember this. What's this guy's name? Dominic, I told Dominic, he's like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He's just like scream at me. And he's like, next time you tell him you have an appointment in 15 minutes, you have to get out of there. So I'm like, okay, if people invite you to have a look, doesn't mean it's a seller. The ability to quickly separate real clients from time wasters, it's one of the highest leverage skills in real estate. Every hour spent on someone who is not ready, it's an hour stolen from someone who would have bought or sold. I learned this the hard way when I had this horrible, horrible seller who would call me, honestly, like 10 times a day. This guy was a pain in the butt. He was rude. He was like just nightmare. And we didn't end up selling his house because he was so bad. We fired each other. And the very next day, I did a sale with a buyer who I just met for the very first time at that showing. So for me, it taught me a lesson on how to preserve my energy. Don't waste it on like assholes. and open yourself up to work with nicer, better people. So so signs that they're serious. So clear timeline. We need to be in by September. People who say, okay, we're just looking, we'll move when the right house shows up. I say just you can stay in touch with those people, but don't put all your eggs in that basket. Like make sure you're really focusing on the ones who have a clear goal and clear timeline. So when we qualify buyers or sellers, always, and Danny Griffin says this all the time, I want to know why. So I want to know your motivation, and I want to know when. So your timing, okay? So people who are serious, they're gonna get pre-approved, or they're actively working on it. They have a lot of questions about process, not just the price. I feel like a lot of time wasters are saying like, oh, I like this house. What do you think if I offer this much? And they're like, 10% below list price. Well, it's once you have that conversation 2, 3 times, they're not really serious. Has a real reason to move. So, I find that even when people say, oh, it's a bad market, things are so hard, people still have to move because of work. Either families getting married or people getting divorced, somebody passed away, their lease ended. So there's always something happening in people's lives that no matter what market, I find that there's always opportunities. So look for those people who have a real motivation. The red flags to watch for. So we're just looking, no timeline. That's a big red flag. Won't discuss financing or budget. So I find that there's people that are very closed off and they don't. What that has told me is that they either don't trust me as a professional or I haven't been able to communicate my value properly. Thankfully, that doesn't really happen much anymore. It's more the fact that they're just like, not in a good financial situation. They don't want to talk about it and they just don't want to, they don't want to accept it. So watch out with those people. They keep changing what they want. So people who I find that I don't like wasting my time with these people. Like they don't know what they want. So they'll say one day, oh, I want a townhome. Oh no, actually, I prefer a detached. And then go back to a townhome. Or you know what, maybe I should do a condo. So they don't really know what they want or they're not clear on their area. You're wasting your time. No urgency. And when I say wasting your time, obviously help them. I feel like if you walk people through a process of trying to figure out, okay, where do you live? How long do you commute? Are you happy with that? You want to have neighbors around you? You prefer to be in the outskirts? So go through a sort of questions to help them get to a more clear picture of what they want. But if they continue to switch back and forth and not really commit to anything, then you've done your job. Another red flag is no urgency, no motivation, no real reason to move, no real why. They don't have a real why. They'll never really do anything, in my opinion, maybe in 3 years. Who knows? The 4 qualification questions. Okay, for timeline. I like this question. I got this one from Dominic. When do you see the moving truck pulling into your new home? This is a very visual picture for them. It's like, well, this could be before the school starts. Yeah, I need that truck to be at the door before the kids go to school. So it's like having that picture of like when does that truck need to be at the new house? It'll give you, okay, well, if it's in September, right now we're in May, let's say you have 60 days for closing, you got to have an agreement at least by June to be able to close in September. let's say. So timeline, that's a really good question that has worked very well for me. Finance. So have you chatted with the mortgage broker yet? No approval, no showings. I don't do any showings anymore unless I see a pre-approval. Because to me, if they don't have a pre-approval, they're just dreaming. I might do like I think Marnie called it a test drive. I might do one just to with the purpose of building more rapport. I'll do like maybe an initial, if we didn't meet at the office, we're just meeting at a house. I'll do that as a test drive because I'm also, it's not that they're test driving me, I'm test driving them too. I want to see who these people are, and get to know them a little bit better, even if I haven't seen their pre-approval yet. But I try to stay away from, doing any showings unless I see pre-approval.
Yeah, Marty called it the test drive, but I found that if it was someone that I, met over the phone or something like that, I would book an appointment to show something and then talk to them about, do you have your pre-approval? Knowing that they didn't, then I would say, okay, well, here's some people. You
Yeah,
get that booked and then we'll go, talk to this mortgage person, your bank or this one, and then we're going to book some more showings after that. But today is to meet you, to tell you what the process is. I used it as that kind of buyer presentation, but made sure that they
yeah,
understood I'm not doing any more showings until they've got a
yeah,
budget,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell them a story of this colleague that I work with. And she was doing all this, showings for a person who thought like they did one of those like bank website questionnaires, and the bank's website said that they were approved for 600. And then when they put in the offer, conditional financing, then the bank said they could only afford 530. So guess what? If they don't have 70K to put there, that deal is falling apart. So you go through the whole process. And the way I frame it with the clients, I tell them the story as like, I don't want you to be heartbroken if you fall in love with this house and then the bank says no. So first figure out where you stand in terms of your buying power. Motivation. So what's driving the move? I take this question from Danny. It's very direct, so you have to know who you ask this question to. With an S client, you might have to ask a little bit more softly. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to move in the next year? So if they haven't given me a real motivation, a real reason, then I'll get into like, okay, how likely are you actually to move in the next year? And decision, so qualifying, so is it just you or someone else involved? Yeah, who's making the decision? So uncover hidden decision makers early. So I've I had it's funny because all the terrible people are the ones that teach you the better lessons. So I had a terrible experience with the buyer who was like, this was the wife, right? So wife is like, no, I make all the decisions. I'm the only one signing. Da 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 da. I'm like, are you sure? Like, let's have a conversation with your husband. No, he's okay. He's this. So at the end of the day, uh, the guy didn't even show up for the showing. So I'm like, oh, this feels odd, right? So this is not right. But she was like super decisive, like super like confident, saying like, no, he's all in. We have she showed me a pre-approval. It had both names. So he's just gonna come for the inspection. He's busy. So I'm like, okay. So showed up for inspection. The guy didn't even like the house. So there was nothing wrong with there was nothing wrong with the house with the inspection. He just didn't like the house. So the whole thing fell apart. It was a big drama because of where I was working. So I'm like, okay, this is not happening again. If you have somebody else signing that contract, I have to meet them. And there could also be those hidden decision makers, right? Okay, are the parents also advising? Who is going to be involved in this? All right, so that's pretty much our, qualifying for serious clients. Do you have, Penny or Hope, do you have anything else to add on the qualifying?
No, I think it's excellent. The only thing I would say is just making sure, like, for any of the newer people, just how you phrase everything. Always remember, like, what's in it for them. Like,
Mhm.
I'm asking when they're going to move because I want to, like, figure out my pipeline. Yes. But, like, make sure that they know that it's reasoning so that I can make sure that I'm there to help you, especially if we're in a rush for this.
Yeah. Yeah, in that timeline, yes, it's not just for me, it's for them so that they also know what to expect, right? Going back to that comfort of knowing what to expect. So it's like, okay, by this day, this is going to happen. By this day, this should happen. So if we're on track, great. If we fall off track, then we're going to have to revisit this timeline. All right. And just to summarize, I think this is my last slide. Yeah. Um, try to mirror their style, pay attention and adapt. Uh, I like to do this. So practice on your friends and family, trying to guess their disc profile. Um, there's always free tests online, so have them do the test, whatever. Especially now in the summer, if you go on a cottage weekend with your family, it's fun to do this kind of activities, I find. So because then it'll help you be better at recognizing those profiles in people when you meet them. Um, Follow up with a consistent system, so add value every single time. Most deals live between the 5 and 12 touch points because you kept showing up while everyone else fell off the wagon. Um, Remember that they want to see you as the professional, right? The professional is consistent and it's always there. So having that follow-up system will give them that certainty that you're the right professional for them. Qualify early, qualify assertively. Protecting your time isn't rude. It lets you give more to the clients who deserve it and that are ready. The agents who consistently outperform are not smarter. I don't think I'm smarter than anybody, but I'm definitely hardworking. So if you focus on being a little bit better every day, you're gonna do a lot better than many other agents. So as a agent who consistently is outperforming, you communicate more intentionally, you follow up persistently, and spend your time on the right people. So just to close now, we're almost perfect timing, actually. I wanted it to be 40 minutes, so I think we're right on time. What's one thing, I'll ask Alicia. Alicia, what's one thing that you will think you'll do differently this week now with what we talked about?
Well, definitely get everything into my CRM. That has been the worst thing for me because I'm on Bold Trail right now, but obviously I just got access to Follow Up Boss, so I'm in the process of moving everything from one to the other. But I do have a hard time with the CRM because my brain is no, I will remember, and I usually do remember, but at the same time, like I can't just rely on that. Like I need to have it down as much as I have things in my calendar. I need to remember to actually put people down as well, and focus more on disc profile. I know I cut out while I was doing it, but I checked mine and I'm SC and then
Yep.
SIC, which makes sense, obviously. For all of you who've talked to me, that makes sense. But I do need to focus more on other people and how they communicate because I'm someone who likes to give as much information as possible, but
Mhm.
I need to like reevaluate and understand not everyone needs that. So that's
Yeah.
something I have to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess as an S is, trying to because too much information or too much anything will make a brain overwhelmed. Uh,
Yeah.
and someone who's overwhelmed or confused will never be able to make a decision.
Yeah.
So try to be precise, especially as an S, because I know S is like She tells her time, a nice story.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, ladies. Hope and Penny, do you want to add anything else?
No, I was just going to say it's always wonderful. Thanks, Andrea. That's great.
Thank you, Penny. I appreciate
Appreciate
it.
this, Andrea. One thing I really liked, and I'm going to think about it, is you talked about what is it? Oh, serious clients. Serious clients actually ask about the process and about what you're going to do, not just about the price. And I've found that in listing appointments, if it's all about the price, those are the most annoying people because
Mhm.
they're not seeing the value of what we're giving. You know,
Yeah,
we're just being used to get what they think they need, and those
yeah.
people are frustrating all the way through.
And I think we have a real advantage with Metro City because the Metro City stats are super good.
Mhm.
So you can just speak from a position. I had a call from a seller, one of those Lori Greenberg. I sold one, and then I got a call for the next one, the one I have listed now. Her first question was, "What's your fee?" And I said, "We can talk about fee, but I'm going to tell you why I was able to sell that unit you called me about. I'm going to tell you why I was able to sell it for 2% more than the other guy who listed for the same price." So
Perfect. Yeah.
if you want, we can have that conversation, and then I'll tell you how our fee structure works. And then she was like, "Okay, well, let's have a conversation." So yeah, you can. I think if you
Yeah.
come from a position of like, I'm a really good professional. Obviously you don't tell them there's a lot of like shit agents out there. Sorry, my language here, but there's a lot of bad agents out there. So if you know that you're an agent who takes the time to be better, to study the market, study the stats, you're gonna give them really good service. You can really come from a position of confidence and power and say, "Hey, I'm gonna bring you a lot more value than like a lot of people out there." So
Mhm.
it's really worth it for them to have that conversation. And Danny talks about it a lot. It's like you got to come from a place of giving. Like I'm gonna give you my best as a professional, and you're gonna benefit from that.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ladies. Have a great day. I'll see you around.